How though? I thought they were like celibate and all that shit.
They're not celibate.
What? They just bang with their helmets on and shit. Tight. Welcome, Nerd Chatter, a weekly podcast where we discuss stories throughout the week from film, gaming, and tech industries. Joined today by Garrett and Kenny. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
On this week's show, we chat a little bit about Mandalorian Season 3. But before we get going, depending on what platform you listen to the show on, make sure to follow and subscribe. Hit us with that like if you're on YouTube. That'd be fantastic. Mando Season 3. Gentlemen, we're here, finally.
Yes.
How long's it been? Yeah. How long since the last episode? Not counting Boba Fett.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you count Boba Fett, I mean, it's been a year. So, I mean, it's really been 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years and 3 months-ish.
Oh my God, more than 2 years?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
What is this?
Yeah.
So I mean, we did have the cameo, the extended cameo in Boba Fett.
Yeah,
that was basically
season 2.5
co-star appearance of Mando.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I guess first off, what about that? Right, that approach of it leaving from what the last scene we saw is Luke taking Grogu, right?
Yeah, we see Luke taking Grogu at the end of season 2, and if you don't watch Boba Fett, hey, guess what?
You have no idea what's going on.
Grogu's just showing up in the back of this brand new starfighter, like
chilling, waving at people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sam, I'm like, my thing is Boba Fett started off so stale. I mean, in my opinion, obviously people would fight, that whole argument, but Boba Fett to me was kind of like cheesy. It felt like cheap and pointless, which, I mean, made sense that they brought in those characters, right? The member berries started flowing to make the show worth it. Essentially, you just got taken away from Boba and you were focusing on Mando again. So, I mean, like you said, coming into this episode, and if you haven't watched Boba Fett, which, like I said, was starting like stale, you know what I mean? Like, it was very like boring and like, I don't know, like it didn't vibe. And like naturally towards that last half, you get what you want and you see all these characters and stuff and you get development in a story that's not even not even that show.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest thing with Boba Fett is the first couple episodes, it was super slow rolling, getting the Tusken Raider story going on. It wasn't until Mandalorian showed up, it was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. And like things where I like the pace was picking up. I felt like the choice of directors definitely hindered how Boba Fett progressed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same director that Boba Fett came back in season 2 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
For that Boba Fett episode, but there was not the same intensity. It's like he went to the guitar amp and went, okay, we were at 11, but now we need to go to 4. And it's just okay, this is really not the same vibe that we got.
Yeah, and you have the scooter kids zipping around
driving at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, the non, just, I don't know. It just didn't feel like something that I have to keep up with this show. Yeah, it's like, whatever. So I can see a lot of people checking out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that was my concern.
Yeah, if I wasn't a hardcore Star Wars fan, I probably would have checked out.
Yeah.
Because it was slow. But I mean, I consume all Star Wars content, so that's just my own fault.
Above and beyond. Yeah, I mean, it's just it didn't feel like it was there to serve a purpose, and then they kind of snuck in this little secondary purpose.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 full episodes directly of Mandalorian in Boba Fett, and other great story development going on with Grogu and Din in the last episode or 2 of Boba Fett. So it was just this really weird vibe that came out of it. It was just okay, this is, I mean, Boba Fett really didn't have a clear trajectory, if you get what I'm throwing down there.
They're just using that character because the character was there and they could.
Yeah. But so I mean, we show up in this week, we start watching Mandalorian, or the first episode of Mandalorian season 3. I mean, I think Din says, Yeah, Grogu just came back to me. Essentially, he was just like, okay, what?
He returned to me. I must go
Yeah.
to Mandalore and bathe in water. It's like,
Yeah,
what
it
the-
was just like
yeah.
all of that was just like
They
I
rushed
felt
it.
like they were rushing the explanation. Um,
And even the
the-
little catch up in before the episode was
Yeah.
like cheap. Like it was not cheap, but like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't have any meat on that bone. Like it barely
Yeah.
kind of got across like
Yeah,
what
like,
you
where was
should
the
be
stuff-
aware of.
yeah, where was the stuff with Luke Skywalker, like
Yeah.
in him training Grogu? So I think this is a great time to talk about what some of the things that Jon Favreau have said in the media leading
Yeah.
up to the premiere. He said that it's been 1 to 2 years since the end of season 2, and so for the most part, most of that time was with Grogu with Luke Skywalker. Then the last chunk of that is they're reunited, and Din's really taking on like the, adopted father thing. And, like, we can see him teaching him how to, like, what's going on in this, like the cockpit of the starfighter,
Yeah.
and all of those things. And you get those little like moments where he's like training him to be a Mandalorian, which is going to be interesting.
It's teaching him to
Um,
be a space traveler and,
Yeah.
navigate around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's really interesting that Grogu spent so much time with Luke, but we don't really see that yet, other than, we see him, he's able to do so much with the Rancor from Boba Fett, but we haven't seen what he's capable of.
So my thing is like, okay, so was he with Luke for almost 2 years, or has it been almost 2 years since the last episode of the last season? And if so, like, how long has he been with Mando after leaving Luke?
Yeah,
to
so
now. Where are we?
from-
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what they basically said has been 1 to 2 years since the last episode of Mandalorian, not including Boba Fett, and that in that chunk of time, Grogu spent a lot of time, almost a year, with Luke Skywalker. So whatever the actual timeline is, I don't think they have quite dialed in yet. So
Yeah.
I think at this moment, without seeing like an in-universe time date, it's going to be pretty much impossible to tell. Grogu's been with Din for 2 months and 5 days or anything like that. That's
Yeah.
just not possible right now.
Well, I guess before we start getting into some of the fine details, what do you guys think? Kenny, what do you think of the episode?
I enjoyed it. It was slow at first, but you can't expect a banger right off the bat. Like everything, like all of a sudden the plot just like opens up. But it was interesting to see what was going on after those 2 years. So what's going on with the armor, and like what's going on with like Bo-Katan and
The
all those
situation
people.
with Mandalore and all that.
Right.
It was a nice little catch up. It was
Yeah.
kind of like The Force Awakens. I'm not throwing any shade.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, it was in that sense where it was kind of like what you already knew. It was just to kind of warm you up and get you back into the headspace. It was a lot more lighthearted. You got the pirates, like they're just kind of
Yeah.
like bopping in, glorious.
That was, like,
we'll
very
talk about the
random.
pirates.
Yeah,
We got to talk about the pirates, but it felt like, okay, here's our characters again. Here's the world they live in. Here's a small little hurdle that they need to get past in this episode. But
Yeah.
this is just to wet your whistle to get you back in that headspace,
Well, I think this episode set up, or its main job is setting up the rest of the season.
Yeah, which
Um,
is that goal he has that
yeah.
he stated 9 times in the episode.
Well,
It's all his
to be
dialogue.
honest, I think we're going to see him going to Mandalore next episode. I think we're going to see him in the waters of the mine, if it still exists, next episode. I think they're going to get that done super quick, and then we're going to get into some uncharted territory. I think they're going to get through that like stuff that we're expecting fairly quick and have a lot of unknown elements for the rest of the season, which is great.
I would assume that they would drag out Mandalore at least into like 2 episodes, where there's some type of climax that reaches between like a two episode arc.
So the rumor is that there will be some arcing going on, because the general press was able to see the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I saw people on Twitter. I was like, "What?" And I was looking in my Disney Plus. I was like, "There's no second episode, liar."
Yeah.
That shit.
So obviously they've been really tight-lipped with things that they can and can't say, but it definitely feels like the episode 2 leaves us on a cliffhanger. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what type of cliffhanger that is. I have a very keen suspicion, but we'll see. Do
you think it's going to be Thrawn? They're going to start clashing in with Ahsoka?
No, I think we'll get to Thrawn at some point. But I think for episode 2, I think we're going to meet something, not a someone, but a something that's going to be very significant for the whole story of Mando. I'm 90% sure my suspicion is correct, and I don't want to spoil it.
What? Why? Just you can say
fine.
you're right if it's
Fine.
This is documentation. What are you talking about? You can call it.
I think when he goes into the waters of the mine, if the waters still exist, he's going to find either a sleeping or dormant mythosaur that's still alive.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, the Mandalorian prophecy that goes around is that the Mandalorians will be broken up and that they will be able to come together through a new Mandalore that returns riding the mythosaur. What do we know about frickin' Din Djarin? He likes to ride weird animals.
He likes riding shit. He's always riding shit.
Yep.
That's true.
So if that is the case, that we see him go into the waters and there's this big creature, and I mean, there's Mandalore right there.
Well, I mean that makes it even worse that Boba Fett exists, because seeing him ride a Rancor was like trash.
Yeah.
that happened,
Yeah.
right? It looked like I don't know.
Up here.
It looks stupid. They should have saved that for this.
I think they're going to. I think that was like a test to see what they could get away with, because I mean they do that with Star Wars. They'll like experiment with some stuff like on a side show, but on the main show they bring their A game. And spend more time with it, which I don't think they did with Boba Fett. I think they just kind of got that out, and that's why I felt like when Boba was riding the Rancor, it looked a little weird. But we'll see.
So we start off with the IG-11 reference, right? Like, are we gonna have? And that was Taika Waititi, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was Taika Waititi doing that. So that's me and the chick were just like, "Oh, Taika's coming back. Taika's coming back."
You know, I don't think so. I don't think he's coming back.
It wasn't even his voice. I don't even think.
Well, I mean, it
might
was
have been chopped up from the original, but
yeah.
But I mean, that was creepy, right? That whole scene where it's like, crawling. I mean, that was a good scene.
Crawling with one arm and like using its head as a way of like gaining momentum.
You could definitely tell that this director, and there was an article I didn't read. I should have, but I think the director was talking about how to direct Grogu. Yeah, and you could tell that it was a very heavy, like, okay, people want Grogu, so let's just like have him do like cute shit, you know.
Well, and
you can do Force shit now, so let's just have him be cute.
Yeah, well, it was Rick Fuyama. I think that's how I pronounce his last name, and he's directed probably like 5 or 6 episodes of Mandalorian now, and he does a great job at each time. Some of the best episodes of Mandalorian have been from him.
I mean, this is like the most Star Trek show, the most Star Trek Star Wars that I've seen, you know what I mean? Like, it had the corny suits, it had the corny practical cosmetics. It was fantastic. I loved it. It had like the very focused plot, but still like an overarching, you know, like there's a plan going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it felt contained. You know, there was still progression in like what you wanted to know, but it felt like a nice little pocket story. And that's why I was saying it felt like it just was there to wet your whistle, to get you, you know, reaccustomed with what's been almost, you said, what, 2 years and 3 months or whatever. It's like,
yeah,
you know, it's been a while. It has been a while. So it's like, I felt that it was a nice little just story. It was short. What are we looking at? It was what
34 minutes.
34 minutes. Dude. That's shorter than an actual hour-long show on television.
Yeah, and those are like 40
minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it did have some juicy parts. What are we talking about? Where we had the space whales, right?
Yeah, so in the hyperspace travel shot, you have Grogu still in the little droid bay looking over and seeing the outline of the Purrgil, which is super interesting stuff. And I think that's another setup for the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
Okay, they have something to do with the whole Thrawn story, right?
Yeah, so at
Thrawn
the end of Rebels...
Ezra.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of Rebels, Ezra is able to like communicate through the Force to the Purrgil and basically takes away Thrawn's entire fleet using Purrgils and then transports himself and Thrawn away. And that's the last time we see Ezra Bridger. And we know that the premise, or at least part of the premise of the Ahsoka show, is going to be finding Ezra Bridger. So I think that's a nice setup moving forward of what that's going to look like.
You don't think any of that story is going to mix with Mando at any point?
I have a suspicion.
I mean, like they were introducing these Purrgil.
Could towards like the end of the season. Probably.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Thrawn at some point mid-season or towards the end of this season in Mandalorian, or at least have heavy references to him. And we know Ahsoka's looking for Thrawn because the last time Thrawn was seen was with Ezra. So I think that's her angle, and we know Grogu communicates with various animals very well and puts them to sleep and then snuggles them like the Rancor. So it would not surprise me if Grogu and Ahsoka in the Ahsoka show go off on an adventure and he communicates with the Purrgil to figure out where Ezra is.
Huh. Interesting. What do you
I don't know if that's going to be what happens or not, but I think that's definitely a viable option.
It's like trying to find Thrawn in Andor is pointless by this point, right?
Well, I mean, Thrawn would exist in the point in which Andor is going,
but at a completely different point in space, like confirmed, right? Like I think you know where he's at that time, essentially through his books, right? So,
well, through the books and through Rebels, yes.
Yeah, so that you can't really.
He can still show up.
There is a bridge
gaps
there that you can make, yeah, but it's not. It's stretching it more in the Andor route with only one season to go left, you know, with that to introduce Thrawn and all that. So
I don't think they would introduce Thrawn on that realm. There might be a reference to him, but I would be very surprised if Thrawn shows up in Andor. I would love it, but I don't think it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I heard somebody was talking. This is random, but somebody said that, like, I think they have like their own podcast or whatever, but they said that Grogu was saved by Jar Jar from the temple.
Just trying to make Jar Jar relevant. Oh God.
The mental gymnastics and hearing that description too was like,
the Sith Lord Jar Jar.
Yeah, I was like, what if he just shows up with a red saber? I was like, that would be epic. I was like, now we're talking. But
Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah, like you get a little bit. It's like, wait, what?
No, I mean, we know what happens to Jar Jar Binks after or about the time of what Mandalorian's going on right now, like in the Star Wars timeline. He's back at Naboo. Yeah, like literally on the streets performing.
Bum, right? He's like a bum clown.
Yeah, because he got kicked out from the Gungans because they got pissed because he basically started the Empire and like gave that path, and everyone like thinks he's in exile and complete idiot, and he's still clumsy. So he just.
I think this one was like
Theed.
During the time of the fall of the temple, is that he would be on planet at that time and would
Yeah,
be
he would.
over at the Senate and yada yada. I don't know. I thought that was just funny because we have Grogu again. It doesn't really connect or anything like that.
No,
but I
it
thought
doesn't
that was
connect. But I mean, in one of the trailers for Mandalorian, we do see another little glimpse of, Order 66. So I think we're gonna see a little bit more of that veil parting of Grogu being able to see that more. So it would not surprise me if we see who it was that saved him, and I think it's going to be quite surprising. I think it's either going to be a clone or it's going to be Anakin. If I'm 100% honest, I think those are
Anakin?
Really? You think Anakin? Really?
Yep. And
I
if
don't
it's a
know.
clone, it's going to be someone we know from Clone Wars.
Could it be also maybe someone from like Bad Batch or something like
Rex
that?
and shit.
Well, we know where Bad Batch is at the exact time of Order 66, and we know where Rex is at the time of Order 66. So I think there's other clones that could do it. So it may be that he's been, tested on this whole time, and it was a clone trooper like, hey, what can we do with this thing?
It's
Or
so
it was
small.
Anakin be like, hey, I know exactly who you are. I know what you're powerful, and I think we're going to save you for later, for a thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But we'll see.
I mean, yeah,
it'll be
it
interesting.
had to be put aside because there was more pressing matters at hand for Vader and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, he had to be taken out by something. He cannot run that fast. So I mean,
Well, and he was still literally a baby at that
Yeah,
point.
he was a baby.
how old? I
'Cause-
thought he would be like 20 or something like that.
Well, I mean,
I mean, that's
He's-
like 2 in like
In
Yoda,
Yoda
species
years.
age.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the conversion like dog years and shit for Yoda years, but yeah.
I mean, we
obviously
know-
he's 50 something right now, and
Yeah, and he's like 5.
yeah,
Like,
that
yeah.
baby.
Well, not
mentally.
even 5.
Yeah.
Baby.
I mean, we know Yoda was 900 years old when he died. But he had suffered a lot of traumatic things that probably aged him fairly quickly.
That smoker's look.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
ravaged, right? It was
Well, I
tired
mean,
and
from the
torn.
time episode 3 to, episode 5, if we just look at that at canon level, I mean, it's 2 different Yodas. Like,
Yeah.
he's seen some shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's just tired. He's also probably
Yeah.
like giving up as well. He's like winding
Yeah,
down.
I definitely think that.
He basically called when he wanted to go. Like he just laid
Yep.
down. He's like, "All right, I think I'll die now." He's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fades away. He's like, "All right, well, later, I guess."
Well, see you later.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think we really don't know how long the Yoda species lives, but we know that he was older in Yoda species at 900. So we can assume that they live for an extremely long period of time, and that at age 50, that Grogu's still an infant. And we can see that, and he's like starting to communicate, but not really.
yeah. I mean,
so-
he is like a 9-month or 11-month-old baby
that
based
has
on,
force abilities and
Yeah.
you
Well, that was like expedited,
I was
his-
like reading up on Twitter and like some like theories is like he's been reverting like ever since he like lost connection to the Force.
started de-aging.
Not like mentally like so
Benjamin
like
Button.
yeah like his education like right so like when he's with the school doing like his Jedi shit and being a Padawan, he's like obviously developing, but then like with all this like traumatic stuff happening to him and like losing connection with the Force,
Yeah, he's
he
losing
like
connection.
he's been like reverting to just like his like very infancy stage, and
Yeah.
so he's not like really developing anything. But now ever since he's been with Mando and like with Luke, and tapping back into the Force, he's like coming out more.
I mean, he had to be capable
You've
of something.
You've kind of seen it in this episode, right? Like he's his most like his normal instinct is to just like eat everything,
yeah, and like mess
and
around.
like and this one he just like he
Spins the
wanted
chair.
he wanted to like spins the chair, yeah, like he's like messing
Yeah.
around, like using his Force, and then like when he meets the I don't even know what they're called, the Boba Frick race, he like just wants to like he wants to give him a hug instead of like eat
I mean,
him.
that was hilarious. I mean, that was all fan service because they're just
Oh
like,
yeah.
Like
For sure.
everybody loves Babu Frick, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody loves Grogu, and they're like cute and shit. So let's put them in the same scene. Even the facial expression on Grogu, the second
Yeah.
that you see him, like you know that they did that on purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
Oh, this is just gonna be like a little cuteness.
But like you
overload
can
shit.
see like he's like really thinking through like different things.
I mean,
instead of just-
I do love that we're looking at practicality, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to say sets because it was probably the volume, but mainly like the cosmetics, you know, the makeup, and then also the puppets. I mean,
Well,
those
even
are flat
with the
out
volume,
puppets.
yeah, even with the
Amazing.
volume, you still have practical sets
Integrated,
with the
yeah.
backdrop of a
Mhm.
digital surface.
I like the cockpit and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it looks amazing. I'm just saying, like when they're walking through the streets and stuff like that, I'm like, they didn't erect an entire like city and shit, obviously, but like, you know, like it's just, I don't know. So what
Yeah.
about
the pirates.
the pirates?
Oh,
I was gonna say, I was like, should we talk
I'm sure
about
that's
the pirates?
gonna play
Let's
in like
talk about
later.
pirates. Yeah.
So we know it plays in later. If you look at the trailers, you see Mandalorians, multiple Mandalorians, like doing a dropship type thing over
Yeah.
Navarro. So
Mhm.
I think the Captain Gorian or whatever is going to get super pissed that the Mandalorian just buzzed away and Grief Karga basically gave him the middle finger. That
Yeah.
he's
It
going to
was-
invade.
yeah.
And then Mando is going to have to come save him with all of the other Mandalorians. And I think at this point he'll be redeemed, and that he has the Darksaber, so he will be the effective leader of this tribe of Mandalorians.
This is his new Mandalore type.
Yeah.
This is his rising fight type thing.
Yeah, and there's
Comes
rumors
riding-
going
riding
around.
the mythosaur.
No, I don't. I think the Mythosaur will be later. I think that will be later. I don't.
After?
Yes, I don't think we're going to see the Mythosaur being ridden until the very end of the season, or not even till the next season. To be
Dang.
like, I don't see it happening. I think it's just a awesome setup that we're going to see pay out in dividends later.
Yeah, later. Just, I mean, that's just typical like storytelling. Obviously, they're gonna save that for their finales and shit. So
Yeah, but I think what we'll see is, you know, Din coming back from Mandalore to say, "Hey, I bathed in the living waters. I'm redeemed, and now I have the dark saber that I won in combat. Obey me. Let's go fight these pirates." Like, I think that's what's going to happen.
it'll be a lot more technical, like he does,
Yeah.
like by the creed here.
I wonder if he's like gonna like now he's gonna be like more proficient with the saber, right? Because obviously when we first saw him, he was just horrible with it, like
Well,
cutting
super
himself
struggling.
and,
It's
like,
heavy
yeah.
too, right?
Right. Well,
Well,
it's
yes.
it's just like dealing with like it's like a lightsaber, right? Like he's
Well, it's a lightsaber on steroids. So
it's
how
mental gymnastics with it.
Yeah. There's a whole episode of Rebels dedicated to Sabine learning how to use the Darksaber.
Yeah.
And just with like a lightsaber, and like the mythos of that is that you have to work with it. You can't command it, if you will. It's an extension of you and not you commanding it. And I think Din hasn't quite grasped that yet, and I think we're going to see him struggle with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be quite funny, you know, him trying to fight whatever he's going to fight, and it's going to be sad.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
haven't seen him utilize it pretty much at all, except for those intended scenes. You know what I mean? He's not whipping it
Yeah.
out to
Well, and I think
go catch dinner. he's
yeah.
just-
Well, and I think he's not using it like a whole bunch right now is because he's not comfortable with it yet.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's how you get comfortable with it. You got to practice with it. And shit. That's what we should see. Is
I mean,
him-
We
Yeah,
did
do you
see
think
him
we're gonna see
practicing,
an
though.
episode? Yeah, like an episode where he's just like actually like practicing and like whatnot.
Well, I think we need to see Ahsoka or Luke show up and like, hey, I see that thing on your hip. Can I show you how to use it? Kind of like what happened with Sabine in
and
Rebels.
then he's all
like,
paranoid because
Right.
he thinks that they're going to take it because it's the whole Mandalore and Jedi feud thing, right? And then
well, I mean,
Could have
if we
something
look
there.
at what happened in Rebels, Ahsoka is familiar with the dark saber and everything with that because of Sabine. I don't think that Ahsoka is going to get butthurt about him having the dark saber, and I don't think Luke would either. I think you'd be like, "Hey, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Can I
no,
just hold
yeah.
it for 2 seconds?"
100%. Luke would be like, this is how we can, you know,
Hold on.
rebind that crack between the two societies and that type of
Yeah.
shit. Yeah. Well, I mean, my thing with the pirates though is just the practical effects. The main guy, I forgot his name, but the main pirate guy in the ship, just glorious, absolutely glorious.
Oh, the green guy.
Not sure if it was CGI, but it's absolutely fantastic costume. I loved it. And the pirates' faces looked very humanoid, even though they were very extravagantly alien. It wasn't like your, bug-eyed character, or Wolfman, or, Chewbacca or anything like that. It looked kind of like the guys in the street playing the theme song for Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Where it's like they just kind of threw some you could tell. But I liked it. You know what I mean? I like that corniness where it's just like, oh, this is going to be like a little Star Trek episode and shit. Where it's going to be a shootout. Here we go. We got the duel in the middle of the street, right? We got, you got your space fight. It's like you knew they were going to come back, obviously. So that space flight was cool. What did you guys think of that? They had the little stinger, right? The little Mando stinger every time he took somebody out.
Yeah. Well, I really liked that fight. It reminded me of from the first season in the prison ship where like Din becomes the boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really liked that where he started using the asteroids to his favor and he became the boogeyman, and that one guy was like booking it to the mothership because he was scared.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he again was the last person alive. Just conveniently the last person alive. Like,
of course, he's also like playing it off. Oh, I'm bringing him to you.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a very. We're not talking about a heady plot here, and that's what I'm saying. It's a nice little like warm up and blah blah blah. It didn't require you to think very much. It was just a very straightforward. It had enough to push you forward, but at the same time, it was just a fun little space adventure. All in all, we didn't talk too much about IG-11 and the whole intent there. Like, why is he dead set on having IG-11 go to Mandalore with him?
Because he trusts IG-11.
But why does he need one to begin with? Like, what's the point?
I think
maybe to test the air.
Maybe test the air, or test, or just like go out and scan the surface.
And your first go-to is to get like a destroyer droid or whatever the hell it is. He was a battle droid or some shit.
Assassin
of all things, though,
droid.
like he chooses a droid to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
well, he doesn't have any other Mandalorians to.
But like obviously, like he's getting more comfortable with droids. Like he's obviously notorious hates droids.
Understandably so. It's all nice and tidy, and it's not too heady. You don't have to deduce too much out of the episode. The space whales is probably like a big what the fuck for people who have no idea what that. It's like, what was that? Like, I've never seen
exactly.
What was that? Like, was that a whale? Do it have tentacles?
Yeah.
The design in Rebels is kind of goofy with it. I'm sure it's gonna look super dope though. So that's something to look forward to. I hope they do get into that. But all in all, it was a pretty solid episode. I'm not going to say it was long enough. It wasn't long enough. It needed some more Grogu and maybe some Darksaber action. Yeah. So all in all, it was a nice little, refresher. It was fun. You get Babu Frick, and you also get the Salacious Crumb. Forgot what their names are. They're in the trees. What up?
The Kowakian monkey lizard.
Yes, there you go. Perfect. Yes. And then also you saw a rumor online where Salacious Crumb himself may have actually survived.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's hilarious.
Perfect. I need him to be like the king of that
kingpin,
of the species,
the hut of his species.
Yeah.
I can imagine him like being like, when the explosion happens on the barge on Tatooine, and him just like, on the cartoon stuff, you see like this little thing like
shoot off,
like almost like a Super Smash Brothers style, like
Pokemon shit. Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Team Rocket.
Blasting. And then he conveniently lands in a hay bale 19 miles away. And then the story, give me that show. I'll take that show. In the vein of Homeward Bound and shit. And he's just trying to get home. Perfect. So yeah, all in all, good. Anything else we're leaving out that is of importance? You have Bo-Katan.
She's mad.
Yeah, but she's willing. You could tell she's like, whatever.
She's also just like extremely depressed.
She might have some shit going on in the background.
Yeah.
That she has, but it shows her jumping out of the dropship as well, right?
I can't remember in the trailer if it does that, but I mean, we definitely see like her walking with Grogu at one point in the trailers. Yeah. So we know she's going to be involved, but we know that at least from this first episode that her Mandalorian sect has all left her because she didn't get the Darksaber, and now she's super sore about that.
She's all pissed off. One thing that I didn't see in the trailers, I might have been wrong, but the kids, where do they get these kids from? That they're like converting into Mandalorians.
Well, I mean, you kind of see it, like that's like the first thing you see, right? Is the like a kid being ushered into the way, and
I'm saying like where were they? Like where? I thought they lived in like holes in the ground and like
they could be recruiting.
Really? Like they're still out there like plucking kids and just like taking them?
I think they're recruiting, and I also think that the Armorer and Paz Vizsla have been going around to the other Mandalorian holes and collecting them to build up. I can't remember what they call it, but it's the
the children of the what is it?
It's the children of the Watch, but
the Watch.
They're coverts. I think they're trying to build up that covert again, and based on the coloring of the helmet that the Armorer gave, definitely felt like the kid was Paz's son, because it's the same coloring as his armor.
The blue,
and, he got really defensive when that kid was like going up to help the Armorer and like was just staring at the beast. He like jumped in.
Very intentional camera focus on him as well.
Yes.
During the So I mean, how though? I thought they were like celibate and all that shit.
They're not celibate.
What? They just bang with their helmets on and shit. Right? So like, I mean, okay, so that threw me off, but they also lost a couple Mandalorians during that whole little scuffle with
at least two.
Yeah, I saw one of them get like chomped at least. Yeah, so
I mean that a bunch of them got like death rolled.
Yeah, they did, and then tossed around, drowned and shit. So rip.
Yeah, that at least one for sure, goes down the chompers, but there's one that's most likely dead that gets like completely flung while he was on the jetpack and like rolls and stops moving. The other ones are injured, but they definitely feel like they're alive.
The roll one feels like he would be all right. That seems like within reason, where he just took like a big fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That threw me off. I was like, wait, where'd the kids come from? I was like, when is this? Me and the chick were like, is this back when he was a kid?
I think that was intentional. Of like the opening scene of like, oh, maybe it's like a past, like a look into the past where you see, Din being like, indoctrined into.
But it wasn't in the beginning though. It wasn't in the beginning of the episode. It was like, I mean, it might have been the first like act of it, but there was still an establishment of Mando and Grogu and where they were at and what they're doing and shit, and then it just jumps to that scene, right?
No.
No, that was the opening scene.
Was it?
That is the opener.
Yeah.
I thought
the kid in the water and she's working on the helmet. All of that is the opening.
Yeah, so I mean, you think that they're gonna show Mandalore for an episode and then move on to something bigger. I think that they're gonna probably dwell on Mandalore for at least 2 episodes.
I think it's going to be an episode and a half of where we're going to have something significant happen. Like I said, I think we're going to see the Mythosaur in some form in episode 2. And then beyond that, I mean, I think they'll stay on Mandalore for half an episode and then go back to wherever the covert is to show his redeemed himself and everything like that.
Well, I guess not too much more to discuss about the episode, although that it was pretty good. I dug it. Definitely a watch, especially, I mean, if you've been waiting for Mando, you've seen it, right? So
What would your rating be?
Probably like a 7.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
yeah,
kind of like
around there.
7.5.
If you're
Yeah.
focusing just on on the things that I like Grogu and that type of stuff, like being all cute and stupid and shit, like a 9, of course,
Of course, yeah.
it pulled on all the things that I wanted to see, and it just
All the
wasn't.
feels.
It wasn't it wasn't the space prison episode. You know what I mean?
No.
Like it wasn't
Right.
that. Where they took a hallway and made like an amazing episode out of it.
Yeah.
So
No, I definitely think it's 7.5, 8.
mhm.
Like I said, I think it sets up a lot of things that are going to happen in the season that are going to become really important that we don't think are important now. So
Yeah, just the little crumbs. Just
Yeah.
it's they're setups. That's all it is. There's setups and there's payoffs. That's just the terminology, and they're setting up their payoffs later, and that's what you do in good storytelling. So
Yeah.
solid episode. What days this episode? What days the episode drops? Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, yeah.
On Disney Plus. And moving on, as always, we have a free game and heavily discounted section that we typically, put together for you on a weekly basis. This week, we just have one single game. It's Rise of Industry, on the Epic Game Store until March 9th. It's one of those like Empire City Builder type cheapy games. I think it's like $20-$30, but free right now. Go and check it on out in your Epic Game Store. And moving on, a little small roundup here. Nothing too crazy. It's a fairly boring week, isn't it, boys?
Yeah. Not a lot going on.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Mando, this show would have
Yeah.
basically nothing. We'd have to really be digging
Right.
in here and be like, "Can you believe that they delayed this game?" And so we'll move on. There's a few things here from Pokemon in particular, and I'm sure we just lost Lucas. Lucas just
Lucas
shut the
just
episode off, and
clicked off,
fantastic,
yeah.
great. But they did have their little announcement show, and I play Pokemon, so it's like casually. I'm not like crazy about it, but it's notable news. So there's a few things on here. First and foremost, they announced a Netflix stop motion animated series, or I guess stop motion series, on Netflix called Pokemon Concierge, which is, it's a cutesy deal. If you're not into Pokemon, you truly don't care, but it's a nice little stop motion deal.
Yeah, it's a different, obviously a different art style for them and whatnot, but it looks all right. Like, it looks interesting. I'll probably watch some of it.
They're probably going to be like little 15-minute, 10-minute deals, so it just, I like stop motion, so I'm always in support of it. Not sure if I'm going to watch it, whatever. Also announced the first, I don't know, maybe last DLC for Scarlet and Violet. It is coming out in 2023, late 2023. It's titled The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero. I got like 2 hours into the game and was like, I don't mind it. It just wasn't. It didn't have that draw to keep bringing me back.
Yeah.
I like more of your old traditional Pokemon. Actually, I'm not even trying to be like a boomer. It's like, oh, I like the retro games more. It's like I just like the more top-down traditional RPG style for Pokemon. I lived my entire youth and teenage years hoping one day we would have a 3D Pokemon experience where you can run around and throw Pokeballs at things and catch them and all that, and it feels alright. It just kind of feels cheap, you know what I mean? And me personally, it's I play the games for a little bit, I enjoy what's new, and then I kind of just burn out on them. But to each their own. DLC late 2023, no announcement on exact month or anything like that. Next one, this one's kind of weird. It's the Pokemon TCG Classic. And that was announced. It's almost like they took the original 151 cards, right? 150 cards, might even be less, of the original set, the original traditional 1997 deck, and they released an original version of that as kind of like a board game. I'm not even say it's a board game. They just have you can't use the cards or anything. You can get Charizard Hollows and Blastoise and all that stuff, all the original cards that people collect, but they're not. They're recreations, and it's a confined game. So it's Pokemon has expanded so much in gameplay over the years in terms of how you use cards and what you can use and what's outlawed and stuff, that they just took the original release of the game and they made it its own little confined board game that people can purchase. Interesting. I was like,
I wish they would make an actual video game of the card game, back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I just want
Like-
them to make more stadium games.
That too.
I mean, that's
Love that so much.
Yeah, I mean, if you do like Stadium, they do have Twitch Plays Pokemon. They cycle through all the Pokemon games, but they have a modified version of Stadium, and that's really what you play is back and forth, just dicking around in chat and that type of thing. But a new Stadium is a must. We should be there, and it should be a blown out roster, not like this. Like they have their MOBA game or whatever, and it's much like their fighting game where it's like, okay, so here's 12 Pokemon. We just surpassed 1,000 Pokemon in our full catalog, Pokedex. But, here's 10. Here's 9 characters to play. And you're going to have Chandelure in there and shit. It's like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, this is whack. So hopefully they get on the ball a little bit. 'Cause some of the shit that they're announcing is kind of whack. This one is, it feels like collector bait. Like they're trying to nab people that are nostalgic about the original.
And you already know people are gonna.
Oh yeah, it'll be sold out. You wouldn't be able to get
crazy.
This. The only time you'll be able to get is going to like GameStop and paying twice as much and shit. Lastly, Pokemon Go Plus. There's 2 pluses on that. I have the Pokemon Go Plus. It came out when the game came out, like just after it.
A little bit after, yeah.
Yeah, it was $35. The small little Pokestop that you carry around your pocket, has different vibration patterns and colors on the button to tell you what is happening. It allows you to play the game without having to open your phone and do all the finger business. It's just a chance to like catch it or not, and to spin Pokestops and stuff when you walk within range. This is that. It's bigger. It's the size of like just shy of a hockey puck. It does the same thing. It also allows you to choose like which Pokeball you want to throw in your passive catching, which is something that you can't do. I know Garrett got that bootleg ass one off eBay. The one that like did.
I forgot you thought. I was hoping you forgot about that.
No, of course not.
Okay.
But he it does so much. Like you don't have to push the button. It just like auto spins and like it does all this other stuff, right?
You know what's funny is I actually found a legit one on eBay and bought it because I was so tired of like it just doing its own thing, and I was like, stop.
You found a good one? Yes, I mean it's not even that. They just made it bigger. They gave you one other option to like choose what ball you're throwing, and like that's it. And then it has its sleep pattern. So this is Pokemon Sleep, essentially. They just renamed it. And Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon Go Sleep or whatever was, it lets you catch Pokemon passively while you're sleeping, but it also had like sleep assisted things, like white noise, like Pikachu, like whispering sweet nothings into your ear while you're sleeping and shit, and like lullabies and all this weird shit.
Waking you up.
Yeah, and it's an alarm clock essentially. But also, I guess it has this type of feature where the more you sleep with it, the friendlier Pikachu gets with you and shit. Like the more personal.
Creepy.
Yeah, so there's some weird shit, and I'm not sure. If I'm not mistaken, I think you have to like sleep with this thing in your bed. It's like a puck, it's rounded. It's a little Pokeball, but it's very strange. So that is something that they announced. The internet is kind of like WTF, so I figured I'd throw it in there since it was one of the things they announced. I was hoping that they were going to say, okay, we're taking Detective Pikachu and that whole art style and all that, and we're starting Pokemon, where we're going to have our own Ash type character, and we're going to follow this kid as he, climbs the rank to become a Pokemon man. The original story of Pokemon, but done in that real nice, like gritty and well detailed world that they made for Detective Pikachu, but they didn't. There was no announcement on that. The only thing they announced was that show, that stop motion. So it is what it is. I don't know. I'm sure your Pokemon fans out there are all about that DLC though. Next on here, the Super Mario Brothers movie release date moved up by 2 days, now releasing on April 5th. You guys gonna go see this?
I think I will, yeah. Just to see what it's all about.
I'm probably gonna wait.
I mean, I'll wait, I'll watch it, but
yeah,
at the same time, it's like, it looks good. Like, it looks super, super good. The voice acting is kind of bad. It's pretty bad. I know that if they went traditional Mario pitch, and voice, it would probably be offensive, and at the same time, you know,
Yeah.
like just kind of cringy, and it wouldn't sound great. So I could see how the spin that they're putting on it. However, Seth Rogen's voice just being, you know, his voice for Donkey Kong is like, oh, dude, like I don't need another one of that. Like that's literally every appearance that he makes. It's just his voice. It's like whatever. So I got my own personal gripes, but it looks incredibly impressive in terms of CG and stuff like that. So you know, I'll see what's up. Elden Ring DLC development announced, titled Shadow of the End Tree. I don't think either of you have played.
No.
Yeah,
Nope.
I haven't played Elden. I'm not a firm soft
a Souls player.
Yeah.
I am also not a Souls player. I even
don't
have a hard
remember,
time
like-
playing Jedi, to be honest, just because it's
I
similar.
don't remember like any DLCs for like any like Souls games. So
Yeah, that's the
this
big
is
thing.
It's kind of new.
Elden Ring, that's huge because it was like the biggest game like ever. You know, like everybody loves it, and I can, you know, it's not a game that I would enjoy just because I don't like getting frustrated. You know, I don't play games to get frustrated. And those games you get your fun out of being frustrated.
Then why do you play NBA 2K?
I don't know. I just do it to myself, bro. That's torture. I don't know why I keep doing this, but it's, you know, that's like tradition by this point. I'll break a 20 to buy that shit. So I mean, you know, I can appreciate it, especially from an artistic perspective, as somebody who like sits there and actually tries to dig through their brain to come up with something like creative or an art project or a design or something like that. To see what they come up with for those types of games is like insane, bro. So I admire that creativity and all, everything that's dope about the game. I appreciate, except for the playstyle. I just can't do it. But I know Elden Ring community is like just. They're ready, you know what I mean? They're already ready.
Oh,
I know,
of course.
Lyric was like one of the first like tweeting at it, you know. So
I mean, you got people beating the game on fucking like dance pads.
playing with their feet and like their
Yeah, dance
brain. I
pad.
think some chick like played with her brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those forever. I mean, like Dark Souls, you know, like it's that good. So good on you, Elden Ring community. Trailer for Peter Pan and Wendy drops. Did you guys see that? The internet was
Haven't yet.
irate.
Nope, not yet.
The internet was irate. I don't think I saw any favorable comments. Your typical racist and like shit, you know.
Yeah. Well,
You know, just. I mean, as a movie, it looks super good. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, like I'll watch it. You know, I don't care about these characters enough to.
it's coming out on like Disney Plus, right?
It's
Or
going
is
to
it
be a
actually
Disney
coming?
Plus, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even
okay.
know if it's going to be a series or a film, but I did see
Like
that.
a short movie.
If you want to see what people are triggered about online, then you know, then go see. To me, it just looks like a well-produced film or series. Who I think Jude Law played Hook, isn't it? I forget.
Oh no, I'll have to go.
I
I'll have to
think
go
it
watch
was
the trailer.
somebody very known, you know, plays Hook. So, you know, I'll watch it. Just, you know, ignore the discourse on Twitter, the toxicity in the comments and shit. Jesus.
Isn't that a given?
Yeah, it is, and that's it's whatever. Just ignore it. It's stupid. Just watch it if you want to watch it. Next one on here, Forspoken Studio Luminous Productions being absorbed back into Square Enix just over a month after the game's train wreck release. Have you seen this game? You guys seen this game, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've never like I've seen like all the bad reviews about it and like whatnot.
It was
Like,
a tech demo for PS5 to
Yeah.
show off, and also ray tracing. I think, right? It was to show off ray tracing and all that shit. It's that the girl that can use magic and she's zipping around and shows all the landscape and the lighting and all that stuff. So they took that and they tried to make a game out of it, and it was super bad. I'm not gonna lie. What I saw was super bad. The dialogue they decided, the writing was very like just almost intentionally bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you know, so, it's crazy that it was like a month later. They're like, okay, you guys are done. So sorry, your game was not good. It's like, what? It was a tech demo that you convert into a game. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really judge it by that. But yeah, that is a bummer. Luminous Productions, R.I.P. Square Enix making some decisions these days for sure. Court rules that Sony must provide all exclusivity contracts ahead of upcoming FTC trial. This one's going to be interesting. Yeah. So we have the high and mighty, self-righteous, Sony, who never does anything wrong, by the way.
Of course not.
They don't make any mistakes. They definitely don't do shady shit.
Ever.
It's not something that they... but basically, I mean, it's pretty known that when you have these staggered releases, you have, it's going to be on PlayStation, and then 6 months later, it'll release on PC and Xbox. Something that PlayStation has been kind of undoing recently, right? They've been making some attempts at a lot of paired releases with PC. A lot of games are doing that. You get Spider-Man and all these games coming to PC platforms. So it kind of seems like they're scrambling to undo that image before this court case. Almost like it was preemptive, that they knew that they're going to get called out on it, and they can have some grounds to be like, no, we're not. I mean, yeah, we used to do that, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that was our old self.
I mean, we got to take into consideration this is an incredibly shady practice to do, because if we're talking about like the betterment of the gaming community and pro consumer, you have a company, one of the major three, who are actively working to block portions of the gaming community as a whole from consuming something and enjoying something strictly for personal benefit, right? So I mean, just like the concept of that is wrong. And like, yeah, you can get behind it and you can support it. Oh, this is my team, rep, blah blah, Xbox sucks and blah 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 blah. It's like, you want to talk about actual anti-consumer, like, look for the companies that are actually stopping you from doing something, just so that they can benefit from it. It's like, yeah, you'll have Microsoft do that from time to time, but Xbox Game Pass, they're not absorbing games and strictly putting it on there, blocking it off from other players and making sure that Sony players can't play these games and yada yada yada. And that's the image that they're trying to push through this court case, is that Microsoft, they're just trying to expand, they're trying to bring gaming to more people, which in a perfect world, that's what you want, right? You want the company that's working towards benefiting all gamers, not just their customers. But now you're going to have Sony, who has to take all these contracts that explicitly work against consumers, and showcase them. What is this, part of discovery or whatever in the court case, where they have to fess up, they have to show everything. So you're going to have this where it's like, okay, so you have to promise not to put your product on Xbox for X amount of days. You have to you're not allowed to put your game
signing
on
these contracts.
You're signing things specifically that are malicious towards their involvement with another platform, the platform that they're now trying to stop from doing business. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is where their true intentions are going to start leaking out, which are pretty obvious to anybody. They just got the rigmarole that they got to get around when it comes to how courts work and how they can successfully maneuver to validate their claims and their goals. So interesting. We'll definitely be talking about that one on the show. That's the type of juicy shit that we're going to talk about for sure. But I thought that was an interesting one from this week. Probably could have talked about that as the entire show. It was one of those topics where it's like, if we didn't have Mando, then we probably would be talking about that.
When is the trial?
I don't know. I know it's like pretty soon though. It's not like next year or anything like that. It's like, I thought it was like first
in the next couple
6 months or something like that of the year or something like that. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll look into it. We'll talk about it next week. Star Trek Discovery, ending with season 5, will now debut in early 2024. The much appreciated, highly acclaimed Star Trek Discovery. I mean, I don't even... Are either of you Trekkies? Gary, you like Star Trek, don't you?
Yeah.
From what I've seen, it looked pretty bad. It looked atrocious.
The first 2 seasons are pretty cool. Then the season 3 was really weird. and I think season 4 was kind of weird as well.
I mean, from what I'm seeing, it just doesn't look like Star Trek. It looks like, I mean, it looks closer to like what Star Trek the movies, like the newer ones, look like the J.J. Abrams. But and we talked about this prior.
It does talk about that in the show, like how there's certain things that happen in the show that dictate certain things to look a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, overall feel, the intent of the showrunners, the stories that they're telling, how they're telling the stories. We discussed it with Mando. It felt very Trekky, where you had your kind of corny plot, and I don't say corny plot, but you had your corny side plot with your characters. It was kind of silly. But still kind of emphasized how badass your characters are. Want to eat some popcorn, chill out. That's kind of how Star Trek always came off. It was more of the intellectual, learning lessons and sharing knowledge and that type of shit. But you don't really get that anymore. And, I saw Picard is making some changes and that type of thing. So that was my, I was like, they're just outing, ousting all these newer properties, right? And then that cartoon, not sure if that cartoon is, what is it, like Under Decks or whatever,
Lower Decks,
yeah. Super weird decisions. Is that Paramount Plus?
Paramount.
No, it's Paramount Plus, right? So I'm not in the loop of where they're at, what they're cutting. I mean, if it was HBO Max, then I'd have a better idea as to like the frantic nature of them trying to like clean up things, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, in my opinion, Discovery does its own thing, and it feels weird. It has the essence of Star Trek, but isn't, it doesn't look it as much. However, the Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that nails Star Trek really well.
Really?
And like the feel, the everything. I would highly recommend it. The second season's coming out sometime this year. The first season's out already on Paramount Plus. Then obviously Picard's really good. It sounds like I haven't watched any of the season 3 yet. I know the first episode or 2 have been released, but I've heard that it's extremely good for the final season of that. So
really,
yeah.
Yeah, I saw some reviews. Some hardcore Trekkie fans are up in arms.
there's always going to be someone up in arms.
Yeah, there's always. I'm not a Trekkie, so I probably won't chime in anyways. But you do have that final season. Discovery has been announced. Starts in 2024, early 2024. So you're looking at end of 2024 would be the end of that show. Oh well, rip. Next one on here, streamer and YouTuber Ludwig has his 1997 Subaru Samber stolen and puts an APB out on the internet to his fans. Shortly after, the vehicle was found with some random dude sitting in the driver's seat. He's just like parked on the side of the street and shit. Who then tore off when confronted. Did answer some questions and play dumb and all that before driving off, but later the car was found in a parking lot abandoned. I'm not sure if you've seen this. It's like one of those little Japanese flatbed tiny trucks. I guess this particular truck was in anime, some weeaboo shit. Like it was in like Initial D and like all this. So he got it, which I mean it's cool, if whatever.
Yeah.
But it got swooped. Somebody just stole it, and I guess it was because there was an extra key in the car that he didn't even know was there. Probably didn't even look, to be honest. Typically something you do if you're buying a used vehicle, but somebody got into the car, took it, and drove off. It's it's right wheel, it's a Japanese vehicle that is not imported. Sold. Yeah, it's very obvious. And this fool just like is on the side of like Hollywood Boulevard or whatever, just like sitting on the side of the road. And then some people come up and are like, "Get out of the car, bro! Like you got to take this back." And he's like, "What? What do you mean? This is mine." And this stupid little back and forth where the guy plays dumb, and then when they call the cops, the dude just like takes off, and then they find the car later. But I thought a happy little ending. He gets his little weeboo truck back, and you know, the guy gets away scot free. Nobody got arrested. Check your car for extra
but
keys.
it's also just like how like influential these guys are, right? Like he put an AFB out like on what, Twitter and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it was like Reddit.
Within hours, people found his car.
Yeah. Well, you also had people doing like their little Reddit detective garbage. Yeah. So I mean, you get some memery that comes out of it. Nice little, you know, everything was wrapped up tightly. There was no, I guess the guy got away, but you know, it was a victimless crime in this particular case. Nothing was wronged. I guess nothing damaged, nothing taken from the car. Nobody was hurt. Right. So whatever. We thought State of Play was the end, but Sony announces a big PS5 showcase in the upcoming months. I guess we didn't talk about this last week. We really should have, but what was missing from State of Play? And the two that I'm aware of off the top of my head is Spider-Man 2, right? You got Spider-Man 2, and then you also have Wolverine.
Right.
I'm super aggro that Wolverine is a console exclusive. That's one of those like no business, no business. Like I can in a like screwed up world, I can see your little reasoning for making a Spider-Man game exclusive.
Well, I mean,
it should be much bigger than your brand.
Still owned by Sony, so I get
rights
that.
Are
okay.
The movie and animated or the movie and like series, anything over 44 minutes, I think it was, is considered a Sony product. However, you know, when it comes to games, I'm not sure if that carries over the same way. And like,
got you.
You know, they don't have anything to do with like the animations. That's why you get like Spider-Man and Friends on Disney Plus, little cartoons and kid shit. You get the animated series, yada yada yada. So I can see, regardless, there's a tie there, so I can in my mind be like, you bastards, whatever. Wolverine, not the same. Like super aggro. 100%. You do not own whatever back end deal that Disney worked out with PlayStation on that one pisses me off. And hopefully, and maybe this court case, the FTC court case, will open that up. Maybe they'll have to be like release an Xbox. I mean, I don't have Xbox, but like whatever, you know what I mean, a PC release or something. But yeah, that is something that we could get. You know, what other games are there? I mean, I don't have a PS5 yet.
I'm not too sure. Like, I would have to like really think about that.
Garrett, do you have a PS5?
Nope. I just have my computer, and I guess we have a Switch now.
Oh yeah, because the school stuff.
Yeah, the esports.
I might have a PS5 actually here soon. We'll see. I mean, you know, I'm a grown ass man, but my mom's retiring, and she's like, "Hey, they're gonna give me a chunk of money when I leave, so you know, I'm gonna buy a PS5 for your nephews if you guys want one." I'm like, what? It's like, I'm a grown man, but I'll take a free PS5 from my mom. You know what I'm saying?
Apparently, they're all readily available now.
Yeah, now that you can just buy them, you know. I mean, mainly it would be for like, I've already said it, but the 4K player is like my thing. But that's my thing, is that there's no real draw for PS5. Maybe God of War, but I'm not really a God of War fan. I'm not. I mean, Gran Turismo does go hard. You know what I mean? Like, I might get on that. But
yeah, I mean, not even, you can't even do like Horizon Zero Dawn anymore because that's on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So
because you can get it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
right. So.
Yeah, that's the rough part. So I mean, that's, you know, we'll see. But at the same time, you know, I screw myself over because they have the PlayStation exclusive quest line for Hogwarts Legacy. Another thing that triggered me so hard, dude.
Wait, what? There's an exclusive.
The Haunted Shack, I think it's called. The Haunted Shack.
Okay.
It's
I actually know what that's. Yeah, that's actually in the movies, isn't it?
I don't think it's the Shrieking Shack. Yeah, I don't think it's the Shrieking Shack. I think this is something, but it was like a Halloween themed mission. Super pissed when I heard about that, but I forgot about that until now. But that's another thing that pisses me off. So, but I won't have that copy, so I won't even be able to take advantage of that because I've already played it on PC. I digress.
I mean, I would say like MLB The Show, but like now ever since last year, like that got dispersed into, you know, Xbox and like even the Switch. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're talking about. Big show when it comes to PlayStation, so we will have to see.
Yeah, so they might be out. Yeah, they might have some cooking that.
Maybe.
I mean, this could be their like their E3 like presentation. Like,
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought
presentation.
the state of play was it, but I guess not. I mean, maybe we'll see. Maybe, I mean, Bethesda, you know, I mean, just because it's a PlayStation 5 show doesn't mean that it's only exclusives. It could be
Right.
Starfield. Starfield could make their gameplay debut there.
Right.
Release dates, have some fuckery with, like, you know, staggered releases or whatever. You know, they could do something like that. I mean, they're owned by Microsoft now, so I guess that's not really probably a probability, but you know, I'm like, what are you talking about big? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean big?
Yeah.
Because that state of play was a whole lot of like small stuff, right? That was pretty big. It had like a lot of small stuff. I don't know. Well, so we'll have to see. I'm calling not so much Wolverine, but I am calling Spider-Man 2 for sure.
Oh yeah, I would highly.
It might even be a half hour of here's all the differences. Here's all the minute differences in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. No date on that. I'm assuming probably before or just after E3, you know what I mean? When is E3, you know?
June normally, right?
Yeah, normally June.
Is it the same? I thought that was Comic-Con. Probably around the same time.
Comic-Con's usually in July.
July.
Or like,
Yeah, E3 this year is June 13th through the 16th.
Yeah. So yeah, I would assume something around there, to be honest, because you don't even have a hard date yet, and that'll probably pop up. Like they do the announcements for the dates like a week before these days. So we'll see. Trailer for Rosario Dawson-led Haunted Mansion drops. This trailer looked good. This, I was like, whoa, what is this? It had like Owen Wilson
I mean,
in it.
I'm about to say they got a lot of more actors.
Rosario Dawson was in it. Danny DeVito was in it, so I'm already sold. Looked creepy. Had a creepy vibe for a Disney product. There's some Dutch
what you
angles.
want, though?
Yeah, but I mean, I saw Muppets in the Haunted Mansion. Like, we're talking about the same streaming platform. Movie came out like a year and a half ago, you know, and you know, it was more slapsticky Disney. It felt very like Disney Muppets, you know, that type of thing. This one though is more of like, you know, like I'd be more likely to take my 1-year-old on the Haunted Mansion, which I did. He was sleeping though, but more likely to take him on that ride than probably let him watch this movie, to be honest. Like, it was pretty creepy, a lot of creepy visuals. You know, so there's, I don't know, it had like a dark vibe to it. So I was like, oh, this might be like more of an adult, you know, appreciated Haunted Mansion approach. Because I mean, did you see Haunted Mansion back in the 90s or early 2000s or whatever with Eddie Murphy? Not the same
Joker
vibe.
one?
Yeah, no, it was a very comedic.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where my mind goes with it. Amusement park shit. But this one looks more of like, oh, okay, all right, little silly, but really, like, you know, we're not talking about Scooby-Doo here. We're not talking about the Scooby-Doo movies where it's got a kind of a creepy vibe, but it's super like corny. This is like, okay, so we got some creepy visuals. So check that out. I actually thoroughly recommend checking that one out because it looks like it's shot pretty well. Northampton, Massachusetts, using $20,000 of COVID relief fund to install TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle man covers, in their downtown area to reinvigorate downtown arts.
This is very interesting.
Well, the Northampton, Massachusetts is where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hail from. I guess the creator is from there.
Okay.
But $20,000?
20 grand, which I mean, in my mind is actually, it sounds cheap, to be honest. 20 grand for, I mean, I don't know if you ever picked up a manhole cover.
Those things are solid
have.
steel,
Like,
whatever they're made out of.
They're installing this in the downtown area to reinvigorate arts, and you know, it's like, oh, it's, you know, to show our appreciation for the Northampton, you know, born Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and yada yada and all that. But I'm focusing on the fact that it's from the COVID relief fund. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right,
it's like,
exactly.
bro,
Yeah, like
what the hell? Like, what are you talking about? Like, why? But again, 20 grand seems cheap to me. I mean, how many are we talking here? 20 of them. So we'll see. We'll have to see a follow up on that. I'm gonna get some pictures. I couldn't find any pictures, but when I find a picture of the manhole, I'll share it on Twitter for sure. So head on over there and give us a follow with that, because I'll keep you in the loop on the Northampton, Massachusetts Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle manhole cover story. But last one on here, Kenny.
Saddens you.
EA announces delay on EA PGA Tour. It's now releasing on April 4th. What is that, like a week later?
Yeah, something like that.
Sounds
I guess. I mean, you kind of possibly figured this would happen, especially when it's going to be Masters Week, and
I mean, people are going to be watching the Masters. You know what I mean? Like, give me a week before where I can get into the mood to watch the Masters by playing the course. I don't care their reasoning.
I think this is going to backfire on them.
I mean, I don't know. It's just a week. People are going to be like, quit being so... My thing is, I'm literally not going to be in the state now. When the game comes out, I purchased it. I was hyped. I wanted to stream it. I wanted to play, co-op. I wanted to do all that, or multiplayer. I wanted to do all that on release day. And it worked out perfectly fine because I was leaving the state, a few days later, so I'd have a couple days to play and chill. But now they just choose to drop it right when I'm not there. And it's like, yeah, it's selfish, but at the same time, been over this. I despise them changing dates after they take your money. Like, it's not...
Yeah, after they do pre-orders and stuff, yeah.
It should be against the law. Like, I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry at that whole, discussion. Because it should absolutely be against the law for them to just... Like, what if they just decide to do it 2 years later? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's 2 year delay. What are you going to do? We have your money. Like, you'll wait. You know what I mean? We're just inching towards that, where delays are going to be for everything. For every single thing. DLCs, updates, bug fixes, everything. Everything's going to have a delay because people are allowing it to happen. So I say, if they take your money, they should be beholden to that release date. And if not, they should start dishing out free shit. They should start, offering refunds and all that shit, because it's just not appropriate. If a game is not taking pre-orders and they decide to move back the field goal post, then they can do that. And that's perfectly fine. I get it. But as soon as they take your money, you should have a level of expectation, and consumers should be respected a little bit more in that.
Yeah, I mean, they take pre-orders now pretty damn early.
When did there was a game recently that did not definitely wasn't Hogwarts, because that pre-ordered since last year and shit. But I mean, there's been a couple games where they're just focused on releasing a full experience and not taking people's money, and just releasing the game and it being perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Like, I think pre-orders, it's like tipping, you know what I mean? At restaurants and shit. We were exposed to it for so long that now we feel that it's almost a must. And for those, I'm sorry if you work in the food industry. That's my personal... Tips are for exceptional performance, not to, alleviate your tensions on your pay and shit. It's like restaurants charging, get paid $5 an hour and shit, and everything else is based on tips and all that shit. Whatever. I don't want to get into that. But at the same time, it's like, these companies, they have the resources to make sure this shit can happen. They can completely decide not to take these pre-orders. It's up to them. It's just, they choose the money. And then your convenience, your experience, and your satisfaction comes last. And that's really what people should be aggravated about, is that the last thing they worry about is making sure that you're happy. And then they do it in the guise of, oh, we just need this extra 5 days exactly. out of this 4 years of development. We just need this last 6 days, 5 days. Like, what's the big deal? The big deal is you have my money, and I want my product when I was told that I was going to have my product. Whatever. My tangent. I knew this one was gonna hit me. This last story and shit.
I mean, I don't know how much of a tangent that is. Like, it's relevant to delays.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my personal belief. If they take your money, they should be a lot more, intimidated by your reaction for making shit like this.
Yeah.
Changes like this, but whatever. That is it for the roundup. Super short. Try to drag out a few of those a little bit, but other than that, there's like a dozen little stories. Nothing too crazy. Mando season 3 episode 2 premieres Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Wednesday. Yep.
Check that out. We'll probably have a little segment in the roundup from here on out. Garrett, when you want to have bigger sections of things to talk about, then let me know. We'll get you in, and we'll focus the shows on those episodes or key things that happen. Season finale. Definitely make sure you have that one cleared out. We're gonna need to go over that.
That should actually work out for the season finale because so right now I'm in between 2 seasons of esports, and the next season should be ending right about the time the season finale of Mando comes out, so it should be great.
So we'll make sure to keep that in the loop. That's one of our main go-tos. You're not going to get that with like a Marvel show. You know what I mean? But Mando, we'll focus a little bit on each episode to make sure. Something to celebrate. Some good Star Wars content. But as always, like to go over our social medias here. At Nerd Chatter Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find the Nerd Chatter podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, and basically anywhere else you can find podcasts. Make sure you hit that subscribe and follow button or whatever it is on that platform while you're there. It'd be much appreciated. All of our episodes are uploaded onto our YouTube channel where we do weekly live streams, playing various games and drinking. Probably going to play some Harry Potter today. Haven't played it in 5 days or so. I need my fix. Also, maybe punish myself with some 2K, see what's up. If you could support us on there, hit us with a sub and like. That'd be appreciated as well. Helps us grow. It's just how the algorithm works. And if you'd like to support the show, you can head on over to our Discord where we have the free game and Twitter retweet bots. They're cycling the stories, things that we report on throughout the week, so you can kind of get this information early. You can also support us by heading on over to our Patreon where you can find some additional segments, behind the scenes, monthly commentary tracks that we're going to get going here soon. I say that every week. But I need to stop getting sick and blowing out my back and shit, coughing. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You too, Garrett, Kenny, appreciate it, my friends.
Of course.
Always, yeah.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, welcome back. Your triumphant return. Next week, probably have Lucas, Kenny. I'm not sure your availability.
I will be out of town.
Okay. And me a 2-man. Garrett, you're always free to hop on if you got the free time. If not, Lucas will be on next week, and we'll be good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and head on out of here. You guys take it easy.
Later.
Bye.